How does the Quest Pro compare to the Quest 2? What's this thing for? Do any games support foveated rendering? And if so, how good are they? Does the 90Hz display look awful? Is this a new button on the Quest Pro controllers? How's the battery life? Is the Quest Pro worth it for gaming? Does the headset smell funny? Is the screen clear enough to comfortably do real work in a VR environment? I'm going to answer all of that and much more in this video. First, let's find out what's in the box. So taking a closer look at the box, we see in the top right corner that this is a 256GB version, which is currently the only version of this headset. On the bottom right, there's a pull tab to get the wrapper off. So that didn't work at all. Well, second time's a charm. Let's go ahead and pull this off. Then we're going to take the box out of the sleeve. And in this plain brown box, we get our headset. And if we flip the top piece over, we can see the protective cover here. Next, we have the controllers. So first thing I noticed right away when picking these controllers up, they feel a bit heavier, but also notably more dense than the Quest 2 controllers. Let me quickly grab those to give a quick size comparison. So here are the two controllers next to each other. You can tell they look very similar in terms of size, but this just feels a bit more robust than the previous generation controller. Not that the previous generation was bad, but this is just notably more premium than the last gen. The other main difference you'll see is that the last gen has a ring, which was needed to track the controllers, but now the Pro version of the controllers have 3 cameras on them for tracking. So you have a camera here, and you'll have 2 more cameras on the back. The huge benefit of the controller being able to track itself is that you can now put the controllers behind you, and they'll continue to be tracked. This is especially useful if you're going to throw something in a game, or if you need to grab something off your back in a game. One other significant benefit of not having the ring is that the controllers can now get much closer to each other. And this is especially useful in games where you do have to bring your hands close to each other to interact with different objects. For reference, here's how close you can get the old controllers, and here's how close you can get the new controllers. Besides the ring, there's also a few more significant differences between the Quest 2 controllers and the Quest Pro controllers. For starters, the Quest 2 has a replaceable battery, so if your batteries die, you can quickly just replace the battery and keep playing. With the Quest Pro, there is no battery compartment. The battery is actually built into the controller, and they need to be recharged using this proprietary charging pin. So in case you're wondering, there is no USB-C port anywhere on these controllers. The good news is that while the battery is now integrated into the controller, you can get up to 8 hours of battery life on a single charge, which is significantly better than the rumored 1 to 2 hours that we originally thought we would get. In terms of the triggers and buttons, the Quest Pro's triggers do have more travel than the Quest 2's triggers, but they feel almost identical in terms of pulling them. And the grip buttons on the sides have what seems like the same amount of travel, and those do feel pretty much identical between the two as well. And the same goes for the buttons on the top. Clicking those feel about the same on each controller. A new button that's added on the Quest Pro controllers is a pinch button, and it's actually built into the pad right here. So if I hold this up to the camera and I start to pinch, you can actually see that this part of the controller pushes in a bit. So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to be implemented in a game or in mixed reality, but we'll find out. The straps are also different between the two controllers. Since you can take a battery cover off of the Quest 2's controller, this piece can just slide right out, and you can replace the strap if you wanted to. The Quest Pro is a bit different in that you just have to do a quarter turn to the left, and then it pulls right out. And this allows you to attach another accessory that I'll show you guys in a minute. And if I twist this back the other way, you can see that this is the mechanism that holds it into the controller. And in terms of grip strength, I'm pulling up pretty hard right now, and that's not coming out at all. So this is going to do a great job of keeping the controller strapped to your wrist. Next, we have the headset itself. I'm going to set this to the side for a second. We'll get back to this. In this center compartment, we have the charging dock. This dock is used to charge both the headset and the controllers, and I'll show you guys how that's set up in a minute. Below that, we get our light blockers. This is to help you be a bit more immersed in the content. And these are a super thin, very soft, and very flexible rubber. On the edge, we have another little box. And inside that box, we have our charging brick, a charging dock cable, as well as a charge cable just for the controllers. Our stylus tip, which allows us to use the controllers like pens in mixed reality or virtual reality. A manual, as well as a cleaning cloth. Taking a closer look at the headset, you can see that the front has a very glossy, almost reflective surface. You can see the 3 sensors in the front, and you'll have another one here and another one here as well. Right here, you've got your USB-C port for charging, and there's only one charging port. You don't have one on the other side or anywhere on the back or bottom of the headset. You also have 2 audio jacks, one on each side, so it doesn't matter which way your external headphones plug in, you'll have an easy spot to reach. On the side here, you'll have your volume up and down buttons, and on the other side, you have your power button. Looking closer at the bottom, you have your charge pins, and you can see that there's actually a bit of a gap here between the front plate and the body of the headset, and this is actually for ventilation to keep the headset cool during operation. On the top of the headset, there is a wheel to adjust how close the headset sits to your face. So if I flip this over and start making this adjustment, you'll see that the gap between the headrest and the lenses increases or decreases depending on which way I turn the dial. And the purpose of this is to make it easier to wear with glasses on. So if you don't wear glasses, you want to bring this as close as possible to your eyes because that'll give you the greatest field of view with the headset on. At the very back of the headset, we get some protective film that we can pull off. And we also have our adjustment wheel for tightening or loosening the headset. One more important thing to note is that there is a little bit of spring tension here as well. So once you get the headset fitted and on the way you like it, you can actually pull the back and there is some stretch there. You can see that moving back and forth without having to adjust the dial. So this will make it a lot easier to get the headset on and off. The other thing you could do is put the headset on and just press it forward and it'll actually just slide to however tight you want it. And then you can make minor adjustments with this. It doesn't, however, pull out the other way. It stretches a little bit, but it won't pull all the way out. If we look on the inside of the headset, you'll see some perforation through here. This is actually where your speakers are. And you'll see this speaker perforation on both sides of the headset. In terms of materials, the back headrest feels like a super soft touch leather, and it is pretty well padded. It's more padded along the outsides and a little less padded on the inside. And this front headrest is made out of the same material and it has a similar amount of squishiness to it. Looking at the eyepieces, you can adjust these out or in depending on how far apart your eyes are. And this will make a big difference for visual clarity. Taking a closer look at the accessories, you do have this silicone cover, which does cover the lens and it slides on very easily. It's not held on magnetically or anything, it just holds on with friction. And this will do a great job of protecting the front sensors. The blinders also install very easily. They're labeled left and right and they're held on magnetically. So all you have to do is bring it close and they pop right into place. And when you want to take them off, just pull them right off. The charging dock is pretty self-explanatory. There's a USB-C port on the side and you just plug into that port and plug the other end into the power brick. To charge the controllers and the headset, all you have to do is line up the charge points on the dock. And as I bring these close together, the controllers themselves actually magnetically connect to each other. And then you can just drop them right on the dock. And the dock also has magnets to help align the controllers. Now we'll drop the headset on as well. And it doesn't feel like there's magnets on the headset. There might be, but if there are, it's not really easy to tell that they're there. That said, getting it on the charger is easy enough. And as you can tell, the headset and controllers do have charge LEDs on them. Red means you have less than 3% of your battery left and it's charging. Amber means it's charging, but you have more than 3% of your battery left, and green means fully charged. So here's something important and easy to miss. When I was taking the cables out of this packaging, I thought the rest of this was just trash, but the piece that's actually holding these two pieces of cardboard together actually comes off. So if I push here, a little clip is gonna pop out. And if you continue to wiggle that out, you end up with this piece here. And this is not a piece of trash. In fact, this attaches to the side of the headset. So now when you plug your headset in, this works as a cable holder, so you can have the cable go behind your shoulders and down your back. And this is especially useful if you want to charge your headset while you're using it. And speaking of charging while using the headset, you can use an external battery pack if you'd like. And having this cable run to the back of the headset and down your back makes it really easy to just put the power bank in your back pocket. One more important thing I want to point out about this cable is that it is only for charging. You can't use this as a link cable or even as a cable to transfer data. So if you do want to directly connect to your computer to play PC VR games, you'll either have to play wirelessly using AirLink or buy a cable that supports Link. The Quest Pro does come with one dedicated controller charger, and it just snaps on magnetically like this. One important thing to know about this charger is that while the controllers are charging, they disable all the sensors, so you won't be able to use the controller while it's charging. All right, so let's go ahead and put the headset on and get it set up. Holy smokes. Wow, the visual clarity on this. Okay, hold on, let's Let's just take a step back here. So this is way lighter feeling than the Quest 2 on my head, and I think it's just because of how it's sitting on my head. So one quick point of clarification on the weight of the headsets. My Quest 2 does have the battery pack strap, which does make it considerably heavier compared to the Quest 2 without the strap. And so if I quickly weigh these, I'll get 1 pound, 11.5 ounces for the Quest 2 with that battery pack strap, and the Quest Pro weighs in at 1 pound, 9.4 ounces. So the Quest 2 is actually a little bit heavier, but the way this sits on your head makes it feel even lighter than it is. While we have the scale out, let's go ahead and measure the difference between the controllers as well. So the Quest Pro's left controller weighs in at 5.8 ounces, and the Quest 2's controller weighs in at 5.5 ounces. So the Quest Pro's controller is a little bit heavier than the Quest 2's controller, but not by much. Now let's jump back to my first impressions. And one other super noticeable thing right now is the smell of this headset. Like, you could just smell the plastic. Obviously that's going to kind of go away over time, but it's pretty potent when you first put this on. That's a strong scent. So I'm set up now, and I'm in the default virtual home environment. And I'm actually recording the audio from the headset itself. So if you want to know what the audio sounds like, this is it. Some of the things that I noticed right away is, one, the clarity of everything is absolutely incredible. When you look at things that are further away, like that little villa on the mountain over there, that seems less fuzzy and blurry than it would on the Quest 2. So things that are further away are just a little bit more in focus, if that makes sense. Things that are up close, things that are a lot closer, seem way more detailed to me in the Quest Pro than they do in the Quest 2. Especially when I look at that mirror thing over there, like that almost looks real. And same with that potted plant thing next to it. Like, that's just crazy, just the realism that you get. I think the other part of that is the color depth that you get with the Quest Pro as well. The colors are just a bit more vibrant, adding to that realism. Another thing that I'm noticing right away is that everything looks much smoother than I thought it was going to, being that this is only a 90Hz display compared to the 120Hz display on the Quest 2. There's no jitteriness when I look around, and even when I shake the controllers around, everything is very smooth. And the other thing to remember is that the Quest 2 didn't launch with 120Hz either, and that was a feature that was added much later. So it is possible that the Quest Pro will get a 120Hz update sometime in the future. But even if it didn't, I'm still thoroughly impressed with how smooth this is. And the text clarity is incredible. Like, the text was already pretty readable on the Quest 2, but on the Quest Pro, it's much more readable dead center. Like, there's a very noticeable difference in the amount of detail and crispness of the text in the center, but even more so on the outer edges. Like, if I kind of look away from something and then use my eyes to kind of just look over into the corner, that text is still clear, and that's just not true on the Quest 2. The further you get out from the center on the Quest 2, the blurrier things get, but that really doesn't seem to be the case with this. The next thing I noticed immediately is when I went into the menus and started to point around at stuff, the haptic feedback in these new controllers is way more crisp. It almost feels like the vibration is linear, instead of just kind of vibrating around back and forth. And the reason for the haptics feeling so much better in these controllers is that there's now 3 haptic devices. So there's one for the trigger, one for the pad, and another one in the base as well. And speaking of the trigger, it actually has more sensitivity now. So as I bring my finger close, you can actually see that the finger is moving towards the pad without actually touching it. And then when I touch it, it lands on it. And I can also move back and forth across the pad as well. So there's a lot more sensitivity here. And I'm not exactly sure how this is going to be implemented in games. Maybe it could be something like scrolling through a menu or something like that. But that is an added benefit as well with these controllers. And in case you're wondering, the thumbsticks and ABXY buttons still have touch sensitivity, so you'll be able to see exactly which button you're pressing. But the Oculus and menu buttons don't have any touch sensitivity at all. Once you've set up your Quest Pro, you can jump into the settings, then to display, then you can enable fit adjustment and start that. And this will help you get the headset properly situated on your face. So the first thing I see here is I need to move my lenses inward. So I'm going to grab them and push them in. There we go. It says the placement's good. And it says I need to turn the depth wheel. So it says that placement's good. And now it says to move the headset up. So I'm going to slide that up on my head a little bit. And there. So I'm going to adjust this back strap to tighten that up. So now I'm done with all the adjustments and I can see much better now. So if you ever feel like things just aren't quite clear enough, this is a great adjustment to try. So I just realized the IPD levels aren't being shown when I record through the headset itself. So now I'm just gonna record through the lens with my phone so I can show you guys what the range is. So the widest you can go is 71 and the closest you can go is 59. Now that's just what these numbers are telling me through the headset, but that's actually not as wide as the numbers Meta gives us. So I don't know if there's a calibration issue with what the headset's showing, or if the range just isn't as wide as Meta was saying. And before I forget, I know some people have been asking about this. You do not need a Facebook account to set up your Quest Pro, but you do need to create a Meta account if you haven't already. And to be clear, a Meta account and a Facebook account are two completely separate things. Something that's a little surprising to me is that I can clearly see my environment through the peripherals. Like from here to here is where I can actually start to see my real environment all the way back, obviously. And I thought that I'd really want to have the blinders on for that full immersion, but it's honestly not bothering me as much as I thought it would. I thought that would be really bothersome to not have all of this area blocked off, but I really don't mind it. But I'm gonna go ahead and throw the blinders on now and just kind of see how much of a difference it makes. So I've got the blinders on now, and I gotta be honest, guys, blinders are not very comfortable at all. It's almost like they're kind of pressing into my temples a little bit. I took this thing on and off a bunch of times to just, maybe I thought, oh, maybe I just didn't put the blinders on correctly, but it does kind of just push in uncomfortably on the sides of your head, and it's just not a very enjoyable experience, I gotta be honest with you guys. Now, Meta also released a full immersion blocker if you wanna spend an extra $50 on that, and that'll basically block out the light on the sides and most of the bottom as well, and that'll be coming sometime in November. But after having it tried this on, I really hope that for $50, it's a lot more comfortable than these blinders are. Now let's go ahead and try the headset on with glasses on. So I'm gonna go ahead and back this out a bit, and we'll give this a shot, pull it a little bit closer. So my glasses are not touching the lenses yet. And that's actually, wow, there's actually, it feels like there's a lot of space between my lenses and the headset's lenses. That's awesome. Then I'll get a closer shot of that for you guys as well. But if you wanna wear this with glasses, that's super easy to do. Let me put those blinders back on and see if that makes any difference with glasses. All right, so I got the blinders on. Now let's try and get this back on. Okay. Immediately the blinders are kind of folding in on themselves, but we're getting there. Surprisingly, this actually alleviates some of the pressure of the blinders because now they're pushing on my glasses, not on the sides of my head. So surprisingly with the glasses then, the blinders are more comfortable if I have glasses on than if I don't. That's kind of funny. So the good news is that for anyone of you who wears glasses, you can absolutely use this. And I have this cranked as close to my face as possible. So even if you have really big glasses, there's tons of space that you could move the lenses away from your face to even fit very large glasses. So I don't think anyone with glasses is gonna have a hard time with this headset. So I've got my Quest 2 on now to see if I could tell the difference in field of view. So right now I'm gonna get this palm tree right here to the rightmost part of my vision. I'm going to see how far left I can see. So let me get this lined up. All right, so palm trees furthest to the right, and I can see all the way to that palm tree right there. So now we're back in the Quest Pro, and immediately again, I can tell that there's a big difference in visual quality. Things are a lot more crisp, more than I was anticipating in the Quest Pro than they are in the Quest 2, especially in this environment. So in terms of field of view, again, I'm going to look at that same tree. I'm going to get that all the way to the rightmost part of my headset, my field of view. And if I look as far left as I can get, then that gets me to that tree right there. So it's about that much extra viewing space. It's more than I thought. I didn't think we'd get that much more viewing space when I was looking at the numbers initially, but it is appreciable, and I think that will make a difference for some games. That said, I don't know if I'll ever truly be satisfied with the field of view until it's completely around my periphery. So I wanted to show you guys what the pass-through mode looked like with the headset, but unfortunately, if you record anything with the headset, it won't record what's being shown in pass-through. That'll just show up as a black space, and that's for privacy reasons. So instead, I'm gonna use my phone's camera so you guys can see through the lens and hopefully get an idea of what it looks like. All right, so I've come down to the kids' play area to get some more colorful things to show you guys in the pass-through mode. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up to the headset now. And you can see that it actually does a pretty good job with all of the colors. When you look outside, things do get a bit blown out because it is much brighter out there than it is in here. but otherwise this is actually doing a pretty good job. Now in terms of resolution, it's really more kind of like your typical webcam resolution, so you're not going to be blown away by how crisp the image is, but you're definitely going to be able to navigate around your home. If you just want to go walk into the kitchen to grab a snack or grab a drink real quick, you could absolutely do that while keeping the headset on. And in case you're wondering, the outlines around the different furniture pieces and around the walls, I did add those myself in a room scale setup. The Quest Pro isn't automatically figuring out where all of that is, but it does do an incredible job of tracking it after you place everything. Now let's take a look at text clarity within a virtual desktop environment. This is using an application called Immersed, and this is what all of the text looks like from within that application. So this is obviously a replica of my personal desktop, and hopefully you can see that text is super easy to read, and you can actually work in this virtual environment. And if I look further over to the right, you'll see the Quest menu, and the text there is also obviously super sharp. And just to give you guys a quick look at the space environment, it actually looks really cool. And I highly recommend that you guys check out this app if you're going to be doing any productivity work in VR. And again, the app is called Immersed. So again, that is the virtual desktop, and here is the real desktop. So not bad. Now here's that work environment on the Quest 2. As you can tell, the text is still readable, but it's not nearly as readable as it is on the Quest Pro. And as the text moves closer to the outsides of the screen, it gets blurrier and blurrier. So when things are dead center, it's not so bad, but towards the edges, it does get much harder to read. So while you can get work done in the Quest 2, it's much more comfortable to get the work done in the Quest Pro. Something I tried to capture through the lens is the difference in something called God rays between the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro. Now, God rays is an artifact where if you're looking at a bright image on a dark background, you see a bunch of rays of light kind of emanating from that bright image. I wasn't able to capture an image of that on the Quest 2, but I can say that I haven't seen any God rays on the Quest Pro. Another one of the new features with the Quest Pro is face and eye tracking. So as you can see right now, my avatar's mouth is moving with my own mouth, and so are the eyes. So if I raise my eyebrows, you'll see them raise on the avatar. And in case you're wondering, the eyebrows are tracked individually. So if I just raise one eyebrow, you'll see that only one eyebrow goes up on the avatar. If I wink, that'll also be reflected in the avatar as well. Clearly, I'm not as good at winking with my right eye as I am with my left eye. Some things aren't tracked, like your tongue, for example. So if you stuck your tongue out, that's not going to be tracked at all. So now let's try some eye tracking. I'm just going to go ahead and look around in a circle, and we'll see how well that works. So now just make a bunch of different faces and see what works and what doesn't. This probably looks super ridiculous to you guys when you look at my face. So here's something else I just found by accident. If you give a thumbs up, a little thumbs up icon will appear. And if you give 2 thumbs ups, a bunch of smiley faces will appear. Giving a thumbs down doesn't do anything. And I think that's just part of Meta Horizons. I don't think that's going to carry through into every application. All right, so that's all the face tracking features. Now let's see what else the Quest Pro can do. Here are the pen tips that come with the Quest Pro. To install them, you first have to remove the wrist strap on the controllers by doing a quarter turn and pulling out like I showed you earlier. Then the pen tips just slide right in. The tips are made out of a hard plastic, and they're pressure sensitive so they know when you press down to draw on a desk. I tested this out in Horizon workrooms, and they actually worked pretty good. In terms of gaming, I tried Beat Saber first to see if I could tell the difference between the 120Hz refresh rate on the Quest 2 compared to the 90Hz refresh rate on the Quest Pro, and I honestly couldn't tell at all. Both headsets were incredibly smooth. After that, I tried some Robo Recall to see how the throwing compared, and it's definitely easier to throw more accurately with the Quest Pro's controllers than with the Quest 2's controllers. I'd often have to resort to throwing like this with the Quest 2 to get an accurate throw, but with the Quest Pro, I could throw pretty accurately just by throwing like a baseball. Next, I tried some Space Pirate Trainer to see how well the headset would stay on my head when I was ducking and dodging, and the headset stayed in place with no issues. Then I tried Red Matter 2, and holy smokes, I cannot believe this was rendered on an all-in-one headset. It looks like PC VR graphics quality. This, I believe, is the first game to support full foveated rendering, which means the game will track where my eyes are looking with the Quest Pro's internal cameras, then make that area super detailed while rendering other areas in a lower resolution, and you can actually see it in this gameplay footage. As I shift my eyes from one object to another, you can see the image detail change dramatically. While you're playing, you don't notice objects going out of focus since you're not looking at them, and the rendering happens so fast that you can't perceive it when you shift your eyes. The only way I can see it is looking at the footage afterward. And to be clear, foveated rendering is not possible on the Quest 2 because the Quest 2 doesn't have internal cameras to track your eyes. That's also why this game footage from the Quest 2 shows everything in focus. Another huge benefit to foveated rendering is that the things you're looking at are rendered in greater detail. This piece of paper, for example, needs to be much closer to my face to read the small text on the Quest 2 than it does on the Quest Pro. Red Matter 2 also takes advantage of the local dimming feature on the Quest Pro, making for noticeably deeper blacks and more vibrant colors compared to the Quest 2. In terms of audio quality while gaming, it was great. I didn't feel the need to put on headphones, and the bass kicked pretty good considering how small the speakers are. They also do an incredible job with spatial audio. I was never confused about where a sound came from in virtual space. If you do want to wear over-ear headphones, that does get a bit difficult because the headset pushes the headphones away from your ears. When I tried to put on my Sony WH-1000 XM4s, it doesn't actually fully seat around my ear. There's certainly a big gap there. And that's not the case with the Quest 2. These do seat all the way around my ears for a fully immersive experience. One more significant upgrade on the Quest Pro versus the Quest 2 is the pads that touch your forehead and the back of your head. For starters, you don't sweat as much because most of the weight is on the top and back of your head, and there isn't much pressing up against your face. But even when you do sweat, the pads are made of a soft touch leather type material, and they're super easy to clean up and hand the headset off to another person without it feeling, well, soggy. How's that for a visual? I do want to talk about these blinders again because I have had a chance to use these for an extended period of time, and while I'm gaming, I don't seem to notice them as much because I'm immersed in the game, but I do still think they're not very comfortable. Now let's talk about battery life. I was able to get about 2.5 hours of battery life in the immersed application where I spent the entire time editing this video. And that was also with a keyboard and mouse pass-through enabled, which will push the headset harder than if I just stayed in the fully virtual environment. To test gaming battery life, I played a few rounds of Beat Saber at expert level, then played about 5 rounds of Racket NX, played about 10 rounds of Space Pirate Trainer, and completed a few levels in Robo Recall. After an hour and 15 minutes, the headset hit 50% battery life. So for the headset, you're looking at roughly 2.5 hours regardless of what you're doing. And as mentioned earlier, you can always just plug in a battery pack and keep that in your back pocket if you wanted to game even longer. The controllers, on the other hand, were still at 90% after a full hour and a half. If they continue to lose charge at that same rate, you'd be looking somewhere around 10 hours of gaming. That said, it's totally possible that they'll drain a bit faster at lower battery levels, so Meta's estimate of 8 hours may be more accurate. In terms of charge speed from the headset being completely drained, 30 minutes of charging got me to 37%. An hour of charging got me to 78%, and an hour and a half of charging got me to 97%. And that's with the controller's charging on the dock as well. If you plug the charger directly into the headset, you can actually charge much faster. I was able to get from 0 to 48% in just 30 minutes. The Quest Pro controllers are compatible with the Quest 2, and I'm sure a lot of you are wondering if they're worth it. Well, here's my experience. I found that throwing things and getting things off my back was easier with these new controllers, and the vibrations felt much better compared to the Quest 2's controllers. Surprisingly, Beat Saber seemed to be easier with the new controllers. I was immediately able to beat a song on Expert that I previously couldn't even get close on, and I was able to get higher scores on other songs pretty easily. But I can't tell if that's because of better controller tracking or maybe faster processing on the Quest Pro, so take that with a grain of salt. Bottom line, if you're not having issues with any of the things I just mentioned, you might as well save your $300 and see what Meta has to offer with the Quest 3. Now time for some rapid fire questions and answers. These questions came in from the Tech Boy on my community page. And if you guys want your questions answered in future videos, be sure to keep an eye on my community page because that's where I'll post about upcoming videos. So 3 of these questions all have the same answer. Can you play local media? Does it have a web browser? And what OS is it using? So the Quest Pro uses the same OS as the Quest 2. So everything you can do on the Quest 2, you can also do on the Quest Pro. And that includes looking at local media and web browsing. The other question he asked is, does it have a camera? So technically, yes, there are a bunch of cameras on the Quest Pro, but you can't actually take pictures with any of those cameras. In fact, if you try to take a picture or record video in pass-through mode, it'll actually just save as a black image. So now the question is, should you buy it? I'll give you my thoughts in a second, but first, based on everything I've told you so far, do you personally think it's worth it? And if so, why? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so here are my thoughts. If you just want this for gaming, the visuals are notably better, and games that support the extra features like foveated rendering and local dimming do see a significant increase in visual quality. The controller tracking is also significantly improved, and the haptics do feel much better. So if you want the best all-in-one headset that money has to offer, and you have the cash to burn, the Quest Pro is a tough one to beat. But for $1,500, I think it's just way too much to justify the purchase. For this kind of money, especially in today's economy, I'd skip this and wait to see what the Quest 3 has to offer at a lower price point. That said, if you're set on getting one of these anyway after watching this video, I do have a link for the headset down in the description. That is an affiliate link, so if you found this video helpful and want to help me out, that's a great way to do it at no extra cost to you. And if you enjoy deep dive videos like this, and you own a Samsung phone or iPhone, consider subscribing and turning on notifications because I frequently release deep dive videos like this on all the latest tech products. That's it for this tech episode. God bless, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.